What is going on, guys? It's your boy Wriothesley, and today we have a very special video here for quite possibly my favorite character to play in Genshin Impact right now. As most of you may have guessed from the pull session and the first impressions video that we did, I am talking about our guy, our man, our whatever other word you want to insert in there that is not safe for work, Wriothesley. Cryo Man, Punchy Man, whatever you want to call him. The guy that punches stuff and has combos and all that good stuff. Obviously, we're going to be talking about Wriothesley today. I'm actually going to be talking about my personal top 5 favorite teams to run Wriothesley in. So my top 5 Wriothesley teams. I've got a combination of a bunch of different teams on here. I will talk about some characters that can be substituted in certain situations and stuff like that, and just kind of go over like the mindset and the play style that I do personally for each of these teams. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started into it. The first team that we have here is Wriothesley Melt. It's a burning melt team. So the characters that I have on here are Wriothesley, Nahida, Thoma, and Jean. There are some interchangeable characters, but basically the gist of the team is you're going to be applying Dendro, you're going to be applying Pyro, get that burning going, and once you have the burning going, you're going to have very consistent uptime on Wriothesley melting, and you're going to be able to melt most, if not all, well, definitely not all, but most of your hits are going to be melting for pretty significant damage too, because he thrives pretty well in a melt team. For the healer spot, I personally have Jean in there for the attack speed buff because my Jean is at C2. The attack speed buff is very welcomed, and also for the VV shred as well. You can substitute a Bennett. The good thing about having a Bennett is that he'll also be able to funnel some particles over to your Thoma if his energy situation is not looking too great. Normally, right now, my Wriothesley is exclusively running a Wriothesley. So Wriothesley in a melt team is kind of perfect. Any buff that you get is gonna help you out. Even the Elemental Mastery one. Nahida is gonna be running a straight up EM build, so that's essentially what she's gonna be doing. Thoma, I do have him on the catch just to help out with his energy stuff, and it also gives him a little bit more damage on the burst. Running him on an emblem set, pretty basic stuff, just to make sure that you have consistent uptime on that ult, and especially for the extra shields that you get from that too. For Jean, she's just running a straight up VV set with a Favonius sword to be able to get the rest of the team some particles too. I like this team because between all the characters, you should be able to generate enough particles, particularly for Thoma, since he's the most energy dependent character in this team. So that's probably that's the gist of what it is that I do with this team, and it's probably one of the more fun teams, especially if you're looking to see those high damage numbers. Obviously, swapping in Jean for like a C5 Bennett, which I currently have, would definitely help a little bit more in terms of the numbers, but I like to diversify my teams a little bit, and I'm sure plenty of you that are listening to this are kind of tired of Bennett being everywhere. But yeah, so that's my melt team. Hope you guys like it. I'll probably have some gameplay up here just showcasing it a little bit. If you guys have any questions on the team, anyone that you'd like to substitute out, or if you have any, maybe some recommendations on things I could try for the melt team, just go ahead and toss it in the comments there. But without further ado, let's move on to the next team. And for the next team, we have a Burgeon team. So this team's going to be quite different from what you would normally be using Wriothesley on if you just want him to do some straight up damage. He's going to play a little more of a driver role here. I do like this team very much so let's go ahead and get into it. So obviously we got Wriothesley, basic build. He's going to be running Marechaussee, Wriothesley, all that good stuff. I've got Dia in the Pyro slot here. I've got Xingqiu for the Hydro spot, and then I have Nahida for the Dendro spot. Now the good thing about this team is that with Dia and Xingqiu combined, you have a lot of resistance to interruptions stacked up here, which obviously Wriothesley loves. The more resistance to interruption you have, the more you can go at it with your combo, and you won't have to worry about getting interrupted, especially in this current abyss where we have the Capella boss that staggers you, it feels like damn near every other attack that they do. So This team having Dia and Xingqiu working with the double interruption is very welcomed. You've obviously got Nahida for some extra damage and the best Dendro application in the game, Xingqiu for the Hydro application, and then Dia is going to be doing Burgeon numbers. And I have a video up of a Dia Burgeon run in the Abyss, and while there are some instances where Dia's E won't be up, Wriothesley himself does provide enough damage in those times where her E is down for maybe a couple seconds, where you can kind of just hammer away at the enemy and you'll be fine in terms of DPS. So obviously not the most optimal team. If you want to optimize the team a little bit more, you probably want to have Toma instead of Dia, because you can get a little bit more consistent pyro application. But me personally, I got Dia on one of my lost 50/50s, and I have the character fully built. I am running her on a full EM build with the mailed flower. So if you guys want to know what it is that I'm doing with the Dia, she's on a full EM build. She's got a gilded set, and she's got the mailed flower. So she is EM'd out of her mind, which kind of works because, especially in a Burgeon team, the only thing you need to worry about with Dia is making sure that her E is up. So the good thing about this team is you can have Wriothesley, you can have Dia's field out, and everything's set up for Burgeon. You go ahead, do a couple hits with Wriothesley, get some of those Dendro cores out, and if you need to, you can reposition Dia's E, tap it again, and then once you do that, it'll explode all the Dendro cores immediately, because she does that little spike on the ground, boom, everything blows up. So that's what I like about this team, is that during some of the downtime, there's always something to do. You get me? So, and between Nahida reapplying Dendro, Xingqiu with his crazy energy particle generation, and then Wriothesley's just overall damage, it's a nice team to run. It's a nice team to run, and it's very fun. Obviously, with the resistance to interruption, like I mentioned earlier, it's just a lot of fun running this team. So that's my Burgeon team. You've got Wriothesley, you've got Dia, you've got Xingqiu, and you've got Nahida. Obviously, if you want to replace Xingqiu with maybe a Yelan for some more damage, very welcome to do that. The only thing to keep in mind is that you won't have as much resistance to interruption, but I think honestly, Dia by herself kind of provides enough for Wriothesley to not get staggered as much as he normally would. So you might still be good with even using Yelan in that team instead of Xingqiu. But without further ado, let's go ahead and move on to the next team. And the next team that we have here is a straight up mono cryo team. You guys can probably guess some of the characters that are going to be on here. It's obviously, we're going to start with Wriothesley. We've got Shinha, we've got Rosaria, and we have Jean. This is my version of the team. Your version of the team might have a Bennett in there instead of Jean. Obviously, those two are pretty interchangeable. Jean does offer the attack speed buff, which I personally prefer. And I also just like using Jean a little bit more better than Bennett. So for this team, obviously the main thing you're trying to do is just maximize the amount of damage that Wriothesley is going to be doing. That's what Shenhe is there for her ult. That gives you the cryo shred, as well as her E that gives you the insane attack boost. And you've got Rosaria in there to pretty much make sure that everyone has their ults up, because she generates an unholy amount of particles, especially if you're running her on a Favonius Lance. So my recommendation, use Rosaria if you want to use her on an emblem set, noblesse set for a little bit more damage, whatever it is that you may use her on, just stick the Favonius Lance on her. Make sure she's got just enough crit rate, maybe like 50, whatever, and once you use your E, watch them particles fly. You'll be able to get enough for Wriothesley, you'll be able to get enough for Shenhe, and your Jean should pretty much maintain consistent uptime on her ult as well, which will also give you the VV shred. For Shenhe, I'm just running her on a straight attack set. Wriothesley obviously is going to be running his standard Marechaussee with the Witsith. In terms of the game plan with this team, it's pretty straightforward. You kind of want to have everything set up. If you have a C6 Rosaria like I do in this case, obviously it would be better to have your ult up, so you can kind of go like Jean ult, Rosaria ult, get that shred in, Shenhe ult, Shenhe E, and then let Wriothesley wreak havoc. And from there on, it's pretty crazy some of the numbers that you can do with that character. But that's pretty straightforward in terms of the mono cryo team. There's really not much else that you can do there. You can obviously substitute Jean for a couple other characters. You can make it a pseudo freeze team if you want to take out Jean and maybe swap in a Mona with a prototype Amber, and you get the extra Omen buff. So that obviously helps with all of your characters' damage. You've got Bennett that I mentioned earlier, and Bennett is just Bennett. He's just good. And then Jean obviously is the one that I prefer to go with. But if you guys want to try out some other characters as well, if you want to take out Rosaria, maybe you want to have a shield in there, you could put in Alayla as well, because she gives you a pretty good shield, and then maybe you take out Jean or whoever your healer is and try to swap in another character, etc, etc. But for the purpose of this video, that's my mono cryo team. That's what I prefer to go with, and personally it's a lot of fun, especially with this current abyss. If you want to run the first half side with this team, it absolutely destroys that seahorse boss because you're constantly applying cryo, and then it's pretty much smooth sailing from there. So that's my mono cryo team. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. And then for the next team that we have here, it's going to be very similar to the Burgeon team. It's going to be a Hyperfridge team, guys. Another one where Wriothesley is essentially going to be a main driver. He's going to be providing obviously his own personal damage, which will be good for whenever you're not doing Hyper Blooms. So we've got Wriothesley, we've got Kuki. In this version of the team, I have Yelan, and we have Nahida. Obviously, Yelan, very interchangeable with Xingqiu. And you guys should, if you guys are familiar with Hyper Bloom, you know how this team's going to work. You're going to have Kuki Z up, you're going to have Nahida applying Dendro, you're going to have Yelan or Xingqiu applying Hydro, and then Kuki is essentially going to destroy all the enemies. I've got Kuki on a Iron Sting. She's running a full EM set. She's actually running a Tenacity of the Millilith, and I've got her running triple EM on that. So that's essentially what I'm doing there. I think I might have her on a HP Circlet just for a little more heals, but honestly, even with the triple EM, you're probably still going to get enough heals. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. And then obviously Wriothesley's running his standard stuff. Marechaussee, Witsith, you guys know the deal. This team does a lot of damage, and it can take care of enemies pretty quickly. As it stands right now, I probably would run this team on the second half of the current abyss, because you're able to deal with the wolves pretty decently, and if you've got Kuki on like an HP Circlet, that should give you enough HP to kind of power through the corrosion, as well as Wriothesley's own self-healing, which should definitely help. And if you want to take out Yelan and put in Xingqiu in there, just to get that little extra bit of healing as well, that also works. But outside of that, once you get past that floor, it's pretty much smooth sailing, because Hyper Bloom is an insane reaction. It's probably one of the best in the game, and Wriothesley is actually a pretty good driver for Hyper Bloom, especially considering that Kuki needs her little ring to be around the Dendro cores. So Wriothesley, being the melee character that he is, he's pretty much always going to be around those cores. So pretty straightforward. Wriothesley, Kuki, Yelan, Nahida. You can obviously swap in a couple other characters there if you'd like. You can have Fischl in there. You can have, I'm sure you could put in a Yai Miko. But for the purpose of the video and the purpose of my teams, I prefer Wriothesley, Kuki, Yelan, and Nahida. If anything, I might swap out Yelan for Xingqiu, but that really depends on utility and how comfortable you are playing Wriothesley, especially since he needs a little bit of interruption resistance. But that's enough on that team. Let's go ahead and move on to the final team. And then for the final team here, guys, it's another very basic team with a simple concept. Freeze team. We have Wriothesley, Yelan, Xingqiu, and Rosaria. Straight up freeze team. Straight up, nothing too complicated. Very, very simple. Easy to run, all that good stuff. So we've got Wriothesley, who's going to be the main driver of the team. You're going to have Yelan ult, you're going to have Xingqiu ult, you're going to have Rosaria giving everyone particles. The best thing that I love about this team, because I currently have a C1 Yelan, Xingqiu obviously, and Rosaria on the Favonius Lance, Xingqiu with the Sacrificial Sword, you are going to have particles to spare. So everyone is always going to have their ults up on every rotation. You're not going to have to worry about that. It's going to be nice and simple. If you have a C6 Rosaria, you're also going to get the extra cryo shred, which is always nice. She also gives you, I think she gives you some crit rate as well. You're also getting double Hydro to increase Yelan's damage. You're getting double cryo for the extra crit rate. It's just a overall solid team. I personally love running it. I think in this abyss you could probably get away with running it on the first half. I don't know about the second half just because of the wolves. You might need to swap out either Yelan or Xingqiu for like a Mona with a prototype Amber, or even a Kokomi with a prototype Amber. I think either of those two would suffice in terms of keeping your characters up past the corrosion. The only thing that you might have an issue with is the boss in the second chamber, the Capellia boss, because I think they have resistance to cryo, so you might run into some issues there. But overall, if you want to run it on the first half, you should be good to run it there. Overall, solid team, very good, very fun to play as well. Personally, some of my favorite characters to play are Wriothesley, Yelan, and Rosaria. I like Rosaria just because of the mobility that her E provides. Ching-Chu is obviously a great character because of the resistance interruption and the utility that he provides with the slight healing, and also the amount of Hydro that he applies is kind of crazy at times. So that's my freeze team. Very simple. Wriothesley is going to be running Marechaussee, Witzith, Yelan. I've got her on an emblem set with the Favonius bow, so that's obviously more particles. Ching-Chu, I think I've also got him on an emblem set with the Sacrificial Sword. Rosaria, I have her right now on a 2-piece Noblesse, 2-piece Blizzard Strayer for the extra cryo damage. So that's what I've got her, and I've also got her on a Favonius Lance as well. So you already know, guys, this team is going to have no shortage of particles. You're going to be all set. You're not going to have to worry about anything, and it's just an overall fun team to play. Even if you want to just play it in the overworld too, you've got Yelan with the mobility as well, and Rosaria with her E is, in terms of teleporting over to the enemies. It's just a fun team to play. I highly recommend it. It's obviously one of my top 5 favorites. So those were all of my top 5 favorite teams. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and if there's anything that you'd like to add. Maybe you think there's a team that I could try out that maybe I could do a quick little showcase for. Any thoughts or comments that you guys might have, just feel free to leave them below. I always like interacting with you guys, especially with this new style of video that I'm doing for some of the more intricate conversations on Wriothesley specifically, because he's easily one of my favorite characters, if not my favorite character to play in the game. So, but anyways, guys, I think that's a good place to go ahead and end off the video. If you guys enjoyed this video, as always, please feel free to leave a like and comment below. And as always, if you guys enjoyed this video, please check out the other videos that we have on the channel, and I will catch you all in the next one. Take care, everyone.